Hey YouTubers, I just wanted to do a really quick video, something that's been on my mind for a really long time, and I wanted to ask everyone who's listening to this their thoughts and opinions on this subject, but that is, does Dragon Ball Super have a villain problem, an antagonizing force problem? And that's not to say that we have never gotten any really good villains from Dragon Ball Super. In fact, we have. I mean, honestly, I've said this a lot, even though he's not necessarily an antagonizing force right now. When we first met him, Hit was a really intriguing character, and I thought they did his character pretty well going into the first arc, the Champa arc where we met him. And then at the same time, when we first met Beerus, although we had already seen him in the Battle of Gods movie, he was also a very compelling character in his own right. They took him, they did him, they advanced his character in a different way, and it was really intriguing. And we still had Frieza coming out, which Frieza's always a really interesting villain. The only problem there is Dragon Ball Super has really done him to death and is not necessarily that compelling anymore. I mean, they've basically made him a good guy as much as they'll ever make Frieza a good guy at this point. So, and I mean, I guess a lot of people are going to go down to the comment section below and tell me, oh man, you're forgetting about Goku Black, or you're forgetting about Zamasu, and that's not necessarily true. I'm not forgetting about them, but my biggest problem with Goku Black and Zamasu, not that they didn't cause a lot of destruction and they didn't actually get their way in the end and were amazing bad guys, especially for Dragon Ball's, I guess, history of bad guys. I mean, in terms of this is someone you can hate and love to hate, but also has a sense of complexity to them where it's not just black and white, and you can, if you try, to sympathize with them, or you don't even have to try, you can just definitely sympathize. And it's not that I'm forgetting about them, it's just that when it comes to the whole Black arc or Future Trunks arc, whatever you want to call that arc, it has a sense of melodramatic tension to it where, yes, Trunks' history is getting destroyed. Yes, Bulma dies at the very beginning. Yes, this, that, and the other. But it's not the timeline that we're actually in Dragon Ball Super. We knew going into that arc, as soon as they started going to Trunks' future, which was an interesting twist on the whole Cell Games Android saga that they did in Dragon Ball Z, we knew that none of the things that happened in that timeline were greatly going to affect everything that happened in the main timeline. Now, I can't necessarily say that with absolute certainty. We don't necessarily know at this point whether or not the Zeno that came back from Trunks' timeline is actually evil or is going to impact the story greatly, and if it wasn't for Zamasu or Goku Black, then we probably would have never actually gotten anything like that. My question is basically, we need, or do we need a villain that is black and white evil? One of the things a lot of people like to point out is, even though Frieza is somewhat of an archetype or just some kind of a classical villain, there's really just absolutely no redemption to him when it comes to his character. There's no gray area about whether or not you can consider him as an evil person. He always will be, to the point where even though he's fighting on Universe 7's team right now, and it seems like he might, be at least a little helpful, even though he might be plotting, we don't necessarily know. Like I said, it is kind of accepted that he's an evil dick and we really shouldn't trust him. And I feel like with a character like that, it's still so easy to hate him and it's still so easy to root for him. We want to see Goku and Vegeta and Piccolo and Gohan and Tenshinhan and Krillin and everyone else fight and struggle against this antagonizing force and have a really hard time doing it. We don't necessarily know whether Jiren or the Grand Priest or anyone else is actually going to fit that mold in Dragon Ball Super right now or going forward, but to me it doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. One of the biggest flaws I feel like they've made with Dragon Ball Super is setting it in between the 10-year time skip from when they beat Majin Buu to the very ending Dragon Ball Z, because it definitely hampers the story down to a time of relative peace. At least the way they described it when they got to the ending of Dragon Ball Z was, it is a time period of relative peace. And even though that doesn't seem to be the case with Dragon Ball Super, I mean, it just seems like they're in constant turmoil. I know a lot of people, myself included, have pointed this out, that even though there was a lot of stuff going on in Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, there was still multiple years or multiple months or something to, I guess, kind of take one situation and then put it apart from something else that was going on, or everything was just kind of closely knit I guess, cause and effect of each other that was keeping us entertained and was logical, jumping off from one thing to another. One of the biggest things there would be probably the Saiyan arc basically leading to the fight with Frieza. Even though that did happen in a relatively short amount of time, it was still believable because one thing was definitely hopping off another, and it was just basically building the world in a way that demanded it for the story. Not the same thing with Dragon Ball Super. It seems like every couple of months in this story, something is happening. They're going to this tournament, they're going to that tournament. Zamasu comes, Black comes into Future Trunks comes back, Frieza gets revived, Beerus awakes, and it just all doesn't necessarily connect with each other. And even though Goku and Vegeta are having a hard time with every single person they fight, there is no sense that something's going to happen or something's going to get turned up to 11 and everyone's going to be in huge trouble and you don't even know where they're going to win or how they're going to win it. And that is another thing I really don't like about the Tournament of Power, is even though it did kind of put the stakes on everyone, is if you lose this tournament, if everyone in Universe 7 gets out, then the entire universe is erased, but it's not necessarily something we're seeing them fight and struggle to do. I pointed this out a whole lot on my channel, is although the Battle Royale is really awesome for some people, it kind of puts a damper on that situation because people might be fighting, they might give character-centric episodes to Roshi or Ten Shinhan, Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, everybody else on the team, but without them fighting as a team, without them kind of suffering and being there for each other, seeing every single one of them, their teammate, get completely beaten down every single fight that they take, then you don't ever feel that push or pull of, oh my god, we're really going to lose this thing, or we could lose this match and it could all be over and the tournament keeps going. If they lose, everything just completely disappears and there's no more Universe 7. Now, we all know that's not going to happen, which also dampens that, everything is going to be done, everything's going to die feel to this tournament, and I just don't necessarily approve of that. And also, there is just no antagonizing force. I think that's the whole point of this entire discussion, is Jiren doesn't necessarily seem to be that type of person. Jiren doesn't seem to be like an evil entity. In fact, he's part of the Pride Troopers. We know that they fight for love and justice and all this other stuff. He's not someone who's going to vindictively kill everyone, not like Frieza would, not even like, I guess, Boo would, or Kid Boo, before he had his brain and became Super Boo or something else like that. It's just, I feel like there's something missing when you think about Dragon Ball Super as opposed to everything else in Dragon Ball. And I really hope that somewhere down the line they remedy this, whether it is taking something like the Daishinkan, who has this Grandmaster plan, or maybe even bringing back Zamasu, who is able to, take over future Zeno or something else like that, or maybe just introduce someone who's either a time-traveling mortal or a rogue angel, a rogue god of destruction or something. Give us someone that we can actually hate and want to hate, not someone that we actually cheer for or we want to actually become good so we could see more of them in the future. I think that's been sorely missing from Dragon Ball Super, and I want to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions about whether or not you believe this to be true. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Please make sure to go down to the comment section below and share your thoughts and opinions about this particular subject. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. But with that being said, guys, I hope everyone has a good day. It's been real.